Shadows of Empire. Colombia's defiant stand amid the thunder of U.S. war drums in the drug crusade, as of October 25, 2025.
In the sweltering heart of Bogotá, where the Andean winds whisper secrets of forgotten revolutions, President Gustavo Petro stands defiant on the balcony of the Casa de Nariño, his voice a clarion call piercing the humid dusk. This is not just a war on drugs, it's a war on our sovereignty. He thunders, as crowds below wave Colombian flags stained with the blood of decades-old conflicts. The date is October 25, 2025, and the air crackles with the electric tension of an impending storm. Across the Caribbean, U.S. drones hum like vengeful hornets, their payloads shattering vessels in international waters, claiming lives in the name of America's insatiable war on drugs. President Donald Trump's second-term blitzkrieg, sanctions, tariffs, and lethal strikes has ignited a diplomatic inferno, pushing Colombia, once Washington's steadfast ally, to the brink of confrontation.
As the USS Gerald R looms off Venezuelan shores like a steel leviathan, Petro's Colombia braces for the unthinkable, a potential U.S. incursion into its emerald jungles, where coca fields hide the ghosts of failed interventions. This essay plunges into the dramatic vortex of this escalating standoff, weaving historical specters, fresh revelations from global dispatches, and analytical thunderbolts to illuminate a hemispheric drama where oil greed masquerades as moral crusade, and sovereignty hangs by a thread.
The ghosts of interventions past, a legacy of Yankee shadows over Colombian soil. To grasp the seismic drama unfolding today, one must descend into the abyss of history, where U.S. fingerprints mark Colombia's turbulent narrative like indelible ink. The war on drugs, declared by Richard Nixon in 1971 as a veiled assault on domestic dissent, metastasized into Latin America by the 1980s, transforming Colombia into a blood-soaked battleground. Operation Snowcap in 1987, a DA-led initiative, embedded U.S. agents in Colombian jungles, arming local forces against Pablo Escobar's Medellin cartel amid rivers of cocaine flooding Miami streets. But the true onslaught came with Plan Colombia in 2000, a $10 billion U.S.-funded juggernaut under Bill Clinton and George W. Bush that rained glyphosate from Black Hawk helicopters, scorching 1.2 million hectares of coca but birthing environmental nightmares and displacing millions in a civil war vortex. Villages choked on toxic fumes, indigenous communities fled poisoned rivers, and guerrillas like the FARC morphed from ideological rebels into narco-warlords, their coffers swollen by the very eradication that drove prices skyward.
Flash forward to the Obama era, U.S. drones and special forces whispered through the Andes, decapitating cartel leaders in operations that blurred lines between aid and invasion. Yet production ballooned. Colombia now forges 1,500 metric tons annually, 80% of global supply, proving the hydra-headed folly of brute force. Dramatic examples abound. The 1989 U.S. invasion of Panama to snag Manuel Noriega, a former CIA asset turned drug kingpin, foreshadowed today's rhetoric, where Trump brands Petro an illegal drug leader unworthy of alliance. Or consider the Merida Initiative in Mexico, 2008 onward, where $3 billion in U.S. aid fueled 400,000 deaths, fragmenting cartels into savage splinters that now bleed into Colombian borders. These interventions, cloaked in anti-narcotics piety, often masked ulterior motives, securing oil pipelines, quashing leftist insurgencies, and propping U.S.-friendly regimes. As Petro himself lamented in a 2022 UN speech, this war has slain 1 million Latin souls, not for purity, but for power. Now, with Trump's maximum pressure echoing Reagan's ghosts, Colombia teeters on the precipice. Will history's cycle devour it anew?
The spark ignites. Trump's blitz and Petro's fiery riposte. Enter the maelstrom of October 2025. Trump's carrier strike group prowls the Pacific, its decks alive with F-35s, ready to unleash hell on narco-subs. Since August, U.S. forces have executed 10 strikes, obliterating boats in a hail of missiles, claiming 43 lives, including innocent fishermen like Alejandro Carranza, whose vessel drifted helplessly before being reduced to flotsam. On October 19th, Trump escalated the drama, slapping sanctions on Petro via the Clinton list, a rogues gallery once reserved for Escobar, freezing assets, revoking visas, and halting $450 million in aid while imposing 25% tariffs on Colombian exports like coffee and flowers. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent snarled that Petro has allowed drug cartels to flourish, ignoring Colombia's record 600-ton seizures under his total peace policy, which swaps fumigations for farmer subsidies. Petro's response? A dramatic counterpunch that reverberates across the hemisphere. On October 20th, he yanked Ambassador Laura Sarabia from Washington for consultations, a diplomatic dagger thrust into the heart of the alliance. In a blistering Univision interview on October 23rd, Petro decried the strikes as extrajudicial executions and genocidal, vowing lawsuits in U.S. courts against Trump for sovereignty violations. Mocking Trump's geography, he quipped on X, "He doesn't even know where Colombia is on the map," a viral barb that amassed millions of views, underscoring the absurdity of Yankee hubris. Petro pivoted to BRICS for aid, courting China and Russia, while halting U.S. deportation flights and joint exercises. Acts of defiance that echo Fidel Castro's Cold War bravado. Internally, the drama intensifies. On October 22nd, Armed Forces Chief General Eduardo Zapateiro publicly lambasted Petro on X for weakening security, a near-mutinous act that sparked resignation calls and exposed fractures in Colombia's military, long weaned on U.S. dollars.
The diplomatic inferno, allies rally, hemispheric fault lines crack. The firestorm rages beyond Bogotá's plazas. Brazil's Lula da Silva condemns Yankee imperialism, while Ecuador's Daniel Noboa and Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro forge a loose anti-intervention front, evoking the Bolivarian specter that haunts U.S. policymakers. Colombia pushes an OAS resolution against unilateral strikes, leveraging its congressional report on U.S.-Colombia relations, updated May 2025, that warns of collapsed alliances under Petro's leftist tilt. Dramatic parallels emerge. Just as Trump's tariffs forced Colombia to resume deportations in January 2025 after a brief halt, today's standoff risks economic Armageddon, billions lost in trade, as flowers wilt unsold and coffee beans rot in warehouses. Analytically, this is a geopolitical chessboard ablaze. Petro's total peace with ELN guerrillas and Clan del Golfo yielding 25% production spikes but record seizures, clashes with Trump's zero tolerance, exposing the farce of eradication. U.S. demand devours 35% of global cocaine, yet blame cascades southward. Oil lurks in the shadows. Experts like Christopher Sabatini argue Trump's Venezuela fixation is an oil grab, with Colombia as collateral in a bid to undercut OPEC. Public sentiment in Colombia surges, 65% back Petro's sovereignty stance, yet internal rifts, like Zapateiro's outburst, hint at a military sympathetic to U.S. overtures, reminiscent of 1960s coups backed by Washington.
The precipice. Sovereignty's last stand or hemispheric cataclysm. As the Gerald R. Ford's shadow lengthens, the probability of incursion, pegged at 40 to 50% by Atlantic Council analysts, looms like a gathering hurricane. Petro's defiance, while dramatic, risks isolation. A 2026 election could usher a pro-U.S. regime, as Politico notes, offering Trump an off-ramp. Yet the human ledger terrifies. 150,000 projected refugees, ecosystems ravaged anew, and a fentanyl epidemic unchecked, as Chinese precursors bypass the fray. Provocatively, is this Petro's bold requiem for Yankee dominance, or Trump's imperial encore? In this theater of shadows, where bombs fall like tragic rain, Colombia's stand echoes across Latin America, a cry for autonomy amid the empire's roar. As October wanes, the world watches. Will sovereignty prevail, or will the jungle burn once more?